to weigh in on this intention to introduce that price cap for 93 octane petrol. A very good afternoon to you, sir. Thanks so very much for joining us here on SABC News.
Good afternoon, Flo, and good afternoon to the viewers.
All right, let's start by getting your reaction then to the Energy Minister publishing this intention then to introduce a price cap for 93 octane petrol. Some saying, well, you know, it's a good start.
Yeah, so Flo, maybe just a bit of reflection is that the first intention of the government was to actually implement this in June of this year. And then obviously that could not have happened, obviously, because clearly in terms of the regulations and the Petroleum Product Acts, there are due processes that needs to be followed. So we then obviously just challenged the government on the basis of following due process and enabling all the stakeholders enough time for consultation, for engagements, and so the one of the processes that is also required in that consultation process is the publishing of the Gazette for public comments, to ensure that there is a broader participation in the process. So we are very much aware of that process. We were part of it in making sure that the process is followed and due processes are observed.
Yeah, Mr. SB, I hear you saying that you were part of the process, but of course I obviously see that you represent some of the fuel retailers, and we are aware of the fact that the fuel retailers have said that the decision could see emerging operators closing shops due to decline in margins. Of course, currently government sets the fuel price, making it illegal to sell at other prices. So it might not be jubilant for you, but I'm trying to obviously get an analysis from both sides in terms of the consumer, me and you, who's representing the fuel retailer. So there's no need to be diplomatic here. Let's talk in reality where you're standing on the issue.
You 100% correct, Flo, and I think it's always important to have a balanced view, and that's what we believe regulations are there for. So from our perspective, the regulations should focus, on three main outcomes, and all these three outcomes actually linked to the National Development Plan, which is the government's plan based on government policies. And those three outcomes are firstly the jobs, and secondly is the SMME development, and then thirdly is transformation. So what we are actually asking the government to observe is not self-interest, it's actually national interest. So if we look at the OPEX margin currently that is allocated in the whole pricing structure, it's only R1.33 per litre. Now, of that R1.33 per litre to cover expenses, 60% of that is actually employment cost. So if then the government is saying retailers must now use this R1.33, of which about 80 cents of that is for employment cost to compete with each other, what exactly is the government's intention? Because clearly if you then use that OPEX to compete, that's the first casualties of the system will be the employees. So we are already facing the unemployment crisis in the sector. Since COVID-19, we have actually experienced close to 4,000 job losses. And then now if you're going to ask retailers to use, part of the employment cost provision to compete, we actually facilitating and fast-tracking job losses, which is not the intentions of the National Development Plan, definitely not. And then the second element, which is the small businesses, SMME development. Floyd, if you look at the deregulated markets, and I'll use example of UK and Germany. When deregulation came in, the investors in fuel retailing service stations, which we call the business owners, could no longer sustain the returns on their investments, and they actually walked out of the market. And what then happened is that then the oil companies just brought in glorified managers. If you go into those markets, you've got managers who are employees running actually the service stations, basically.
Yeah.
And in terms of the NDP, that is not what South Africa needs right now. Mm-hmm. So again, here's the second, element where this proposal is directly working negatively to what we want to achieve. And then the third one is transformation. And here again, you've got this 133 cents per liter, which is under recovering as we speak. If you look at other costs like credit card costs, we under recovering 46 cents a liter. And this does not even include the loan repayments. So you've got black new entrants coming into this market who are still honoring and servicing loans. And now you're saying while they are just scratching the surface with what they have, they must use part of that to go and compete with each other. So in every aspect, you look at this proposal in terms of the aspirations of the nation in South Africa, this just doesn't make any sense.
All right. And, with this notice in yesterday's government gazette, it gives stakeholders 30 days to comment on the move. You've given me 3 points here. Are these, some of the submissions that you have, or you said you were part of the process? Are these some of the submissions you've already made or are still, in the process of making, or you will be making in the next 30 days? Where are you as the fuel retailers?
Well, firstly, these are not the only points. These are the key points. The other important point is obviously the unfair competition. If you look at the current trading environment in the sector, it is actually, flooded with illegal traders. And that is again against the Petrol Product Act's aspirations, because every activity was licensed to ensure that there is control in terms of how these businesses are conducted. Now you're having a lot of wholesalers trading directly to the public, undercutting retailers. You've got people that get this product in very suspicious ways, and they don't even have the licenses, and they are not paying the taxes, and therefore are able to cut retailers again. So again, the minister has never spoken about this issue. Because again, what is going to happen is that it is these illegal traders who are going to start actually selling below the maximum price on 93 octane. So again, it's just an unfair competition that is not required.
All right.
So coming to your question, in terms of the submissions, yes, we have submitted, but we also believe that we need to have meaningful engagements on these points and unpack them. And we are expecting that the government will not disappoint us in actually listening to our pleas, which we believe are actually for the good of the nation and the sector at large.
Well, there's a side note, but the proposed plan wouldn't benefit everyone anyway, because it's 93 octane is only available inland. What do you make of that argument too? That what's the point?
Well, exactly. It doesn't make any sense because again, if you look at a retailer in inland versus a retailer in coastal, if I'm a retailer inland and I'm selling 300,000 liters, let's say 50-50 of that is 95 and 93. That is a combination for my profitability. Compared to now a retailer in coast areas who's only selling 95, who's going to be making a better margin than me in inland. That is another unfair competition that is actually created by the government. And we're saying in inland, 93 is quite significant. So if we start losing margins and volumes to these illegal traders, we're going to close shops in inland. So, and then also, Flo, we need to also just reference this to the LP gas, maximum pricing, which was done by the government some years back. And they have not done any, price regulation impact study analysis. Because when you implement things, you need to go back and actually do an impact analysis. And they have not done that. And with LP gas, what happened is that before it was regulated through this maximum pricing, retailers were making a gross profit of 40%. And that is not unreasonable if you look at the food market. Gross margins are at 60%. So they then reduced the gross profit to 15%. But here is the dilemma. Even that reduced 15% today is not even realized. Because what is happening is that they only cap the fuel selling price.
Yeah.
But they do not cap the wholesale price. And as the costs, of LP gas move in correlation to the movement of cost in fuel, because it's a byproduct of fuel, this wholesale price keeps going up, and it actually keep on eroding the 15%.
Yeah.
And the fact that we have not really seen this serious impact on LP gas is because LP gas is a small volume item in our businesses. But if you do this on octane 93, this is going to be a serious disaster, and we're going to lose jobs, and we're going to actually suffocate transformation.
All right, that was certainly very informative. Thanks very much, Mr. Reggie Sibiya, for agreeing to talk to us this afternoon. That is, Reggie Sibiya is the Chief Executive Officer for Fuel Retailers Association, weighing in on government's intention to introduce a price cap for 93 octane petrol.